Well, yes, obviously, of course, the answer is yes. They must move on from those guys. But since we're talking about the Giants, we can talk about another New Jersey-based famous organization, the Soprano crime family. And yeah, like, listen, at some point, Silvio Dante had to get got, and Bobby Bacala, who's Daniel Jones in this metaphor while he's shopping for his, wonderful train set, he's going to get got as well. And it's not really Bobby's fault. Like, he didn't ask to be put in this position. He's just there, like Daniel Jones. Like, I didn't ask you to draft me number 6. Nobody thought it was a good idea. But it's not over.
Myself included.
Until Tony's eating the onion rings and members only comes out of the bathroom and gets him. And in this metaphor, Dave Gettleman is Tony Soprano, and he's got to go. He is the reason for all of this. He is the person who defiantly got this whole ball rolling. And it's not just that. His first 3 drafts with the Giants were unmitigated disasters. It's that we have quotes from him after these drafts that are so now upon the light of day and really in the moment absurd that he has signed his own resignation letter whether he knows it or not. Now, I think we can show you his draft history, first and second rounders, since he's taken over the Giants. Saquon Barkley gets drafted. He says he was, quote, touched by the hand of God. I'd like to know which God, not Apollo, the God of good health and healing. We know that was Saquon. And he said, hey, how about this? I actually don't think running backs are, a declining asset. We're going to win right now. Then he drafts Will Hernandez, who you might be like, who's Will Hernandez? Oh, the guy who kept holding yesterday. The next year, drafts Daniel Jones. And these quotes are just unbelievable. The day after the draft, talking to Albert Breer, says, and I quote, I've been to 7 Super Bowls, kiddo. It's like, well, yeah, technically, but half of those you were a scout for the Bills. You didn't exactly architect that dynasty, my friend. Then you draft Dexter Lawrence, who's been fine. Then you trade 3 picks to go get DeAndre Baker, who played for you for 1 season and now is a backup on my team, the Kansas City Chiefs. Then next year, you shocked the world by drafting Andrew Thomas. We were all shocked because no one thought he should go number 4. And Xavier McKinney, who might end up being a good player, but he's been injured. This past year, I'll give him credit. They traded down. It actually looks like a smart move. Ajulari has been excellent for them, but doesn't matter. The fact that you did well in this draft is irrelevant at this point. Broussard, he picked Joe Judge. He picked Daniel Jones. Right now, it's the worst quarterback-coach combo in football. He's got to go.
Nick, I'm with you. I didn't know where you were going initially, but you got to the right spot, which is Gettleman. It's as simple as that. Joe Judge was a risk. Now, was he lazy and did he say, let me go to the Belichick coaching tree? All right, because that's where Judge comes from. But why would you go there? All right, Bill O'Brien had a little bit of success in Houston, but that wasn't great. It was kind of fleeting, obviously. Matt Patricia, a bust in Detroit. Charlie Weiss, Romeo Crennel. All right, Mike Vrabel, people think he's a Belichick coaching tree. He's not. He played for Bill, didn't come from his coaching tree, so to speak. So I think it was a lazy hire. Joe Judge only has special teams experience as a coach and a coordinator. All right, most of these other head coaches were offensive coordinators, so that was a mistake. You're right about Daniel Jones. Saquon Barkley, let me throw this out to GMs around the league. You can get a great running back later in the draft. You don't have to get him in the top 5 or even the first round. Alvin Kamara, 3rd round. Nick Chubb and Dalvin Cook, 2nd round. All right, what in the world was Gettleman doing? It's not 1981, okay? And then the offensive line. It's been a work in progress since Gettleman got there, and it's horrible. Daniel Jones is one of 4 quarterbacks to be sacked 100 times since he entered the league in 2019. All right, so that's gone awry. And then what in the world was Gettleman looking at when he saw Jason Garrett in Dallas that made him think, that's the guy. That's got to be my offensive coordinator. I mean, come on. The mistakes are just lined up one on top of the other. So I'm with you there, Nick. Now, here's what I do. I started the front office, move on from Gettleman and his crew. The coach, typically, I would let whoever I hire as the new GM determine what he wants to do with Judge. I really do. I would now every GM tends to want their own guy, so maybe they're going to come in and get rid of Judge. But I would empower my GM right away to do what he wants with Judge, and keep him for a year and see what you got, or move on. It's your choice. But that's how I would handle it, Wilds, if I'm running the Giants.
So, Broussard, suppose you were the GM. Why wouldn't you back up the Brinks truck to Eric Bieniemy's house and say, Eric, we saw what you did with Kansas City. We think that you are we think that you're already a head coach. We think you're already one of the best coaches in the NFL, and you don't have a head coaching job. We want to give you this job immediately, and here's a blank check, put the number in on what you want. Isn't that the first move? Like, look, I root for the Patriots. I kind of root for Joe Judge. I think I liked his character. These new quotes are starting to become a little bit it's become a caricature. But why wouldn't you just go after Eric Bieniemy and say the rebuild starts right now?
He's on my list. Byron Leftwich is on my list. Kellen Moore is on my list. Like, I'd have a list. If I were the GM, I'd examine everything Joe Judge did. But those are all guys that would be on my list that I look at bringing in. Look, I think yesterday Judge, on the surface, it looks like he's taking the hit himself, right? But I also think he was kind of, making an appeal to Gettleman and the fans. Kind of the two people who might control his destiny. You always want the fans on your side. We'll get to that with Baker Mayfield later. But his post-game presser yesterday was very pro-fans, Nick, and it was pro-player. It was kind of telling Gettleman, the problem's not really with the roster you've put together. It's the coaching staff. And a lot of people think he was going squarely at Jason Garrett, the offensive coordinator, who's calling the plays. And then he talked about the fans having the right to boo, and you don't have to be patient. I got to impress you, so to speak. So I think that some of that was at play as well, Nick.
Oh, that very well may be true, and I understand the point you're making, Broussard, of let the next GM decide who the coach is going to be. Unless the next GM is Jim Judge, Joe's brother, he ain't keeping him. So if you fire Gettleman, Joe Judge is out. There's no one in the world you're bringing in, maybe Wilds if we got a time machine from a year ago when he loved Joe Judge but before he came to his senses. They're a poorly coached team. They're a poorly constructed roster. We got Daniel Jones. Hey, is he in some competition with Carson Wentz of who can throw the single worst interception of the season? It's like, well, Wentz did a full 360 in the end zone and fired it into a D lineman's belly. He's like, how about I throw a perfect screen pass to a 340-pounder who's never caught a pass in his life? Let's try that one. It's the New York Giants. If you were watching the Manning cast yesterday, Peyton and Eli were beside themselves. This is an important organization. We can never rely on the Jets to be good. So we really only have one New York City team that has a chance to be relevant. They're in the NFC East, so they're on national television all the time. And you've got a guy who, when he drafted Daniel Jones, said, I'm in full-blown love with him. Check back with me in 3 years. Well, buddy, it's been 2 years and 8 months. And I don't know if that honeymoon period is over for you, but it is for the rest of the league. Joe Judge has been befooling himself from the beginning of the tenure. You got to rip the whole thing down to the studs, Jenna. It's not complicated.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.